Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. Welcome to La Leaf Animation Day. We are so thrilled to have you. A big shout out and thank you to Mr. Olmos, to Rafael Agustin, and Diana Kataviz for this amazing opportunity. My name is Meg Diala. I am the founder and co-director of LatinX in Animation. Welcome to Cafecitos.
And hi, I'm Brian Dimas. I am the co-founder and co-director of LatinX Animation. Again, super excited to have you all here today. Please don't forget to check out the amazing programming that La Leaf has for not only animation, but for live action, for films, for episodics. You can check out things online and in person at TCL Chinese Theater, so don't forget to buy your tickets. And thank you again for joining us, and please enjoy the following cafecito. Thank you.
Enjoy.
All right, thank you, Brian and Magdiela and LatinX in Animation for having us today. I am super excited by the panelists joining me today. Thank you all for taking the time to be here and share your stories. I'd love to kick things off by going around and having everyone introduce themselves, tell your story, your background, how and why you got into this industry and how you ended up in animation, and what your current position is here at Disney Television Animation. So Joanna, do you want to kick things off for us?
I'll kick things off, of course. So I'm Joanna Hausmann. I'm from Caracas, Venezuela. And my path to animation is a little odd. I'm a comedian. I started doing, stand-up and sketch and improv at UCB and Second City. And then that parlayed into a career doing content on the internet, which then parlayed into live action, writing for live action for sitcoms and for late night. But one of the positive repercussions of doing stuff online is that Dan Povenmire, the creator of Phineas and Ferb, became my fan. And we became friends. And throughout my career, we've always kept in touch. And when he was creating his new show, he invited me to join the team. So my path has been sort of by luck. So very much have my feet in the live action world and new to the animation world. I'm very excited to be here. And I am the story editor on Hamster and Gretel.
Awesome. Yeah, your podcast is hilarious, I have to say. There's that one episode where you guys were talking about sort of how Latinos curse versus America. And I was just like laughing so hard at that. So
it's so much more colorful.
Yeah, yes, very much so. But I feel like folks watching this definitely check it out because it's amazing. It's hilarious. So really awesome. And thank you for being here.
Of course.
Next up, Edward, you wanna go second?
Sure. And Joanna, I was listening to that episode of your podcast with my 3-year-old in the car.
Oh, no.
Like, I didn't think this through.
I want to apologize in advance for any trauma I have caused to your child.
Totally my fault. I was like, yeah, it'll be in Spanish. He won't know. Now he knows.
Education.
That's right.
Exactly.
Yes.
So, hi, I'm Edward Mejia. I'm currently executive director of current series for Disney Television Animation. And we can get into a little bit of what that means and what that does in the conversation. My path to animation, a little more boring. I'm from Torrance, California, rare LA native, grew up here my whole life, went to school here, went to film school at USC, got some internships, and then I started as an assistant at Disney Channel. And I've been working my way up through the Disney ranks for the last 16 years. Wow. 13 of which have been in animation. And I've had the good fortune of working with a lot of great people like everyone on this panel and being fans of a lot of great people like everyone on this panel. So that's really the long and short of my path into animation.
Man, 16 years. That's a long time with the Disney. We'll get into things that you've liked and what's been fun about sort of, just working over here and all that later on. But I'm excited to dive into that history. I feel like there's a lot of buried bodies that we can get out of you.
This beard didn't get gray on its own.
Gotcha. Fair enough. Awesome. Well, thank you for joining us. And last but not least, Pilar, do you want to go last?
Sure. Hi, my name is Pilar Flynn. I'm the producer on Marvel's Moongirl and Devil Dinosaur, and I just recently wrapped up producing Elena of Avalor. And Joanna, I cannot wait to hear your podcast. I haven't heard it yet, but I will listen to it the second this is over. I'm so excited. And I'm originally from Chile and Ecuador, and I was a crazy little Latina girl growing up in South America going, one day I want to work in Hollywood and I want to make movies. And you know, I worked really hard, went to Boston University and ended up working in live action for a couple of years, but then I kind of landed at DreamWorks feature animation because some of the peers I went to college with ended up starting there at the very, very early ages. So it was like end of 1999, and we started right when Prince of Egypt was coming out. And so I got to work on Roto El Dorado and Spirit and Sinbad, Madagascar, Flushed Away. And that was really amazing. And animation was never something I'd even thought to consider until I fell into it. But after 9 years, I felt like I hit a ceiling there and I wasn't getting promoted. So I decided to take another crazy risk and I wanted to spread my wings. So I left and went to work at a couple of startup studios. I worked for Stars Media for a while and Magi, where I line produced Astro Boy. And then I had my 2 little girls, and I literally had my second baby in my arms when I got this crazy call from Sony going, so Seth Rogen wants to do the first ever R-rated CG feature. Like, are you interested? Are you up for it? And I'm like looking at my baby and I'm like, hell yeah. So I went and did that, which was another crazy adventure, which by the way, we did most of the movie on Zoom way before all this happened. So I knew back then it could be done. And then after that was over and I was like, what could I possibly do from here? I got a call from Disney TV, and an executive I knew there, Bonnie Lemon, called me and said, hey, Pilar, we're doing the first ever Latina princess. And I just thought of you. And I know you've never done TV before, but would you be interested? And again, I was like, oh my God, yes, why not? So I jumped and took the chance. And then, yeah, I've been here ever since for 5 years and really excited to be here. So lucky.
That's awesome. That is quite jumping around from DreamWorks to the first, R-rated adult animated feature. That is quite interesting. Any fun stuff that happened on that you can share? Any interesting things that went on?
Oh my gosh, on Sausage Party?
Yeah.
So many. What wasn't interesting from working with Seth and Evan and the gang to teach them animation because they'd never done it before, to having to do it with no money. I mean, I can say because it's published, but that feature cost 22 million all in, and ended up making Sony, you know, more money than I think most of their other features. But we had to do it fast and we had to go by gut. And for me, what I learned most on that was thinking outside the box, because I was working with different entities, Annapurna, who was very independent filmmaker, Sony, that was very corporate, Seth and the gang, and this tiny studio in Vancouver that had only done Thomas the Train before this. And everyone had totally different perspectives on what we should do, how we should do it. And I was the one that had to kind of get everyone to come together. And the only way you could do that was by thinking outside the box and going, well, why not try this? Or, okay, let's do that. And it was amazing what came out of that. So yeah, besides the content and just seeing how dirty storyboard artists can really be, that was the other fun thing we learned. Yeah, it was just a total colorful experience from beginning to end.
That's really great. That's awesome. Cool. Well, I'm going to kick things off with the first question. And this is probably going to be the toughest question that I ask you guys during this panel. And it's basically, if you could go and visit a world from a TVA series, so a Disney television animation series, past or present, which one would you pick?
Oh my gosh.
Who wants to go first?
I feel like Edward probably knows every single one more
That's
than
true.
any of us
Edward,
combined
yeah.
times 10.
Yeah, that's true. Edward, how are you going to pick one out of so many?
That's definitely hard to pick. I will say, just for my own taste, I would have to go with this little show I worked on a few years ago called Wander Over Yonder from Craig McCracken. And that one, in terms of world, it's set in space, it's intergalactic, so you can kind of go anywhere, and each world that they visit is just so like sweet and wacky and fun, and just like the spirit of cartoon. That I always think about that show, and I would love to visit that as just a world and palette that I could explore.
That's awesome. All right, who wants to go next? feel like Joanna's like come up with some stuff.
No,
She's
you know
like,
what?
"No."
I'm panicking. I'm panicking
All right,
because
Pilar,
all of
you
the
go.
no,
Okay.
because I don't know the difference which ones are Nickelodeon and which ones are because I grew up
Oh,
like with Hey
boo.
Arnold and Doug, and you know all of those are like my series, and I'm like, oh my god, which one's Disney?
I know it can be tough. Well, I can definitely go, and I'm going to sound totally biased, but I am going to say Elena's World in Avalor, because I mean, there's magic, there's fantastical creatures like pea bunnies, you get to ride cool jacquins, and of course, a Latina is queen, you know, ruling the kingdom, and that's totally a place I'd want to visit. So
Mhm,
that's my pick.
mhm.
You know,
Okay,
and I'm just
okay.
gonna say the one that I should say, which is Phineas and Ferb, because it is Dan's show and it's the one I've watched the most recently. Because for me, and I mean, this is gonna be as a comedian, I'd want to live in that world because there's so many hidden jokes that like are you don't know are there. But if as an adult, if I was there, I would pick them up. So
Yeah.
that's why I would pick.
Fair.
answer,
All
good
right.
answer.
No, that's a good one. That's a good one. Yeah. I think for me, I'm gonna go way old school and say Tailspin.
Oh
Just because like
yes.
I want to live on that. I just want to just like live by the beach. I want to enjoy that lifestyle, just like, carefree sort of thing, right? Be able to just like enjoy the cabana, all that good stuff. So that to me is the world that I would like to visit. I mean, there's plenty of others, but I would say that one came to mind. And also Tailspin happens to be one of my favorite shows. So yeah. Yeah.
That's a
So
good choice.
Sounds pretty good.
yeah, that's a good one for sure. Well, yeah, it's a fun little thing to sort of think about. So, you guys sort of introduced yourselves, really gave a top line thing. I'd love to now get into a little bit more of the specifics as to what you guys, like really your roles here at Disney Television Animation are, in terms of, responsibilities, how you guys collaborate with your teams, really sort of, we all know animation is a very collaborative sort of, medium. And it's like, how do we all work together to sort of make the magic happen? So would
Mhm.
love to see who wants to sort of kick things off with this question.
Sure, I can go.
All right.
So I didn't know this until about a week before I started this job.
Mhm.
That story editor at Disney is head writer, and that's not the case for any other show I'd ever worked on. And it came as a shock to me because I was not prepared, but I made it work. So as a head writer of something that is sort of you build from the ground up, um, it was really interesting because a lot of the job is figuring out rules of the world.
Mhm.
So first of all, like what is the show about? If you had to synthesize it into one or two words, for us, it's sibling and superhero. And what are the rules of this world? What is the tone? What do we want to say?
Mhm.
Um, and storytelling is storytelling, no matter what the medium is. One fun thing I've found about animation is how open the world can be and how many iterations of the script you're able to work on with thematic, with animatic, and how it can really be a perfected end product because you have so much time to really figure out the real specifics of every moment. Um, that being said, one of the challenges of the job is you got a design team, you got a board team, and if you overload them with really crazy fun ideas, they're not going to like you. And that's something that is, people don't realize about animation. It's like, oh my god, yeah, you can make any world you want. It's like, all right, well, actually there's people that have to get home for dinner, so and we got to ship this overseas. So it's a lot of creativity. It's a lot of also fostering the writers you have in your room, what they're good at, and assigning them stories that they're excited about and that they can really shine in, and really create a collaborative environment where we're all helping each other with our scripts, and then making sure the world we're creating is not only fun and funny but really following logic rules so it feels grounded.
Mhm. And I got a follow-up question to that. How has it been in this time in terms of sort of like, everybody working from home? How has that writer's room experience sort of changed for you? Has it been different? What are the interesting things that have happened? What are the struggles? If you want to speak to that a little bit.
Yeah, I think it's been, if we had these world rules and characters created from, a long time ago, maybe coming into a world where we don't know each other and we're on a Zoom, we know, but I think the hardest part is figuring out the the schedule, the how long we should meet with each other, what is helpful, what is not helpful, because if we're all in the same room together, we can be together all day.
Yeah.
But in this reality, we have to be really sure that every meeting has a meaning and a purpose behind it. So it's become, instead of, oh, let's just all hang out and pitch ideas, it's like, okay, we have to be structured. So it's become a much more structured environment than other shows I've worked in. But I think there's a positive out of that, which is everything feels very, we do everything on purpose, and with purpose. So, although I really want to get back into the room with these folks, I think there is something to learn about, really having goals set in place for a certain amount of time and making sure you get to those goals.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. Cool. Who wants to go next?
I think Pilar should go next, so that
All
we
right.
get
All right.
the
Okay.
flow from the writing to the producer to me.
Perfect.
yeah.
Yeah, we'll do the whole
That's not a
pipeline.
bad idea. I like that, Edward. Yeah.
So, so as producer, I think the textbook definition of what I do is, I don't know if you've heard of that cost, quality, time triangle, but I'm constantly kind of pushing and pulling that to make sure we bring in, the best show humanly possible. But I think that's kind of a boring explanation. The way I like to look at it is I'm kind of the grand central station for the show, where everything goes past me, goes through me, every major detail. And I'm the one that helps everybody get to where they're going. I help carry their luggage. I help figure out, okay, what the timelines are so that we can all get everywhere on time. And what I mean by that is, there's several things as producer you do. The first and most important is I'm a close partner to the showrunner or creator. And, I take their vision and make sure I'm aligned with that vision. And I do whatever I possibly can to not only make that vision possible, but go beyond, what they could have possibly imagined. That to me is a good producer. And I do that by helping with story notes or giving creative input or trying to hire people that will give us the best thing possible, all the way through from beginning to end. The other second most important thing I feel a producer does is I work really closely with the crew, and I'm basically show therapist. So I'm the one that listens to the crew. I encourage the crew whenever possible. I try to mentor them, hear their problems, make them feel as comfortable and safe as possible so that they can really create and feel safe, to put their best foot forward. I collaborate really closely with all the leads also. So from director to the art directors to story editors like Joanna, to the creative execs like Alfredo and Edward here. So I strategize with them and figure out not only what's going on now, but 10 steps ahead, where we need to go and what we need to think of ahead of time. And then I do other things like partner with our studios, our overseas studios. I negotiate and help them figure out how they're going to get their thing done, which means I get to do a lot of fun travel. I got to go to India and Canada and France in the last few years, which is really fun. I also work closely with the casting department and music department to figure out what talent we're going to bring in, how we're going to do it, how we're going to pay for it, which can be really, really fun. And then the other big thing, especially on the last two shows I did at Disney that I get to do, is work with our franchise marketing teams to help them make really cool toys for the show, which is so awesome, especially having two little girls. So I get to figure out, okay, what is it you need and how we're going to fuse that into the show, and then work with the story editor to figure out, okay, how do we do this organically so it doesn't feel like we're trying to wedge, a bunch of products in, but it's also something cool that kids can enjoy later. So yeah, there's so much to it, so many details, but never, like I say, never a dull moment, but
I think
fun.
Producers are like if CEO and a mom mixed together to create one thing, and that's what producers. I mean, I
love that.
I don't know how you do it. It's literally it's incredible everything you guys have to balance.
That's a really great way to put it.
That's a great definition. I love it.
Yeah, no, that's a really, really great way to put it. Yeah, no, Pilar, it's really interesting because I think a lot of folks sort of think of production as straight up just number and just logistics and all that, but you definitely have, you bring a creative aspect to every project and every show that you sort of work on. And so it's really interesting to sort of hear, the fact that like it's not just running a production, it really is working with the creatives, right? If you wouldn't mind speaking a little bit to that in terms of just sort of like the bridge right between sort of creative and production, and sort of like how do you approach that?
Yeah, I think that's so important because as the showrunner, you can't think of anything. And also they're not always exposed to the money you have or the timelines or our creative executives' needs. And so, if I'm able to bridge that, if I'm able to see, okay, these are all the cards we have to play with. Okay, these are all the people available. Okay, I'm going to negotiate. Let me get this person because I know they'd be awesome versus that, and help kind of build on that vision. Like I say, that only helps the show. And not only that, but it also makes the showrunner know that and trust me that I have the show's vision in mind, and that I really care that we make the best show possible. So it also helps the other way around when they ask me, hey, can we do this? Or to Joanna's point, it's like, how about we go to a whole new universe? But it's going to be so awesome, but we have no money. I'm the one that gets to go and figure out how to do it. And I never want to say no, because if I think it's a cool idea, I want to see that. I want to make it happen. And so then it's my job to go back and negotiate or strategize or fill gaps or, parallel track things to make that happen. And at the end of the day, when that comes out, I know that I creatively and as the CEO, with money made that happen. And that's not something a showrunner could just make happen by snapping their fingers. They need a good partner to really trust and believe in that vision. And like I say, having a partner too that values my opinion and wants to hear what my opinion is means the world, because then they know I'm going to work twice as hard for them to make that happen.
Mm-hmm. So basically, everyone out there listening, trying to create their own show, find yourself a producer that is going to be your partner for sure. Which Pilar has been on all the shows that she's worked with us on. So she's fantastic and amazing. Yeah, no, really,
I'm very lucky.
really
I've gotten great partners.
Really great stuff. So, and then Edward, you're going to complete the sort of what the pipeline looks like.
Sure. So as a series executive on a show, the simplest way I can kind of frame it is my job is to be the best partner to the show and the best representative for the show outward to the company. So similar to what Pilar was saying about partnerships within the show to make the best show possible, all of the partnerships that I and the other series execs drive are all the partnerships around the show. So everything from creative feedback, making sure that the creative wants of the show are aligning with the strategic needs of the studio and the network and the company at large, and also making sure that all the conversations and processes that are happening for the show throughout the company are happening, and that the show's needs and wants are being well represented. One way that we like to put it is, as your series exec, we're your first audience and we're your forever champion.
Yeah, no, that's really great. Yeah, you guys really sort of are the ones making sure, that like as the show progresses, you guys are making sure that it stays on the tracks, right? Like the train has left the station, you guys are making sure that it's on the right path, all that good stuff. Which is really, really important to have somebody like that, right? You can kind of get into the weeds in your own, vision, right? And sometimes that may not align with certain things, but it's really great to have that partner that can see sort of farther past just the creative, which is something that I think you guys do really well. What are some of the other things? I know you guys are creative, but also like you guys interact with all sorts of different departments, right? Between like music, franchise, CP, all that. If you can speak to that a little bit more, that'd be great to hear.
Sure, and especially in this changing landscape where it's not just linear networks that we're producing for, it's streaming now too. So there's a lot of moving pieces, a lot more than there used to be, a lot of stakeholders, with every show. So it can range anywhere from, Pilar was mentioning, franchise conversations, for people who want to make the toys and products, to the programming folks, the people who are going to strategize and put the show on the air or on streaming somewhere. And just making sure that all of the timing and all of the conversations are aligning, because it takes a long time to make an animated series, as everyone in this room knows. And there's a lot of moving pieces.
Definitely. Yes. Again, a collaborative medium for sure. I'll speak to really quickly as more on the development side of things. We're sort of the ones that kick things off. So we're the ones that sort of hear the idea and or the pitch or the concept and are just like, oh, there could be something here. Yes, let's try to, make something happen out of this. So really for us, it's guiding the creative, whoever we work with, to make sure that it's the best version that it can be. We never wanted to make it our version. We wanted to make it a version that both the creator and ourselves are happy with. So it's like finding that right balance of just like, okay, you like this, we like this, how do we make a baby out of that, right? Which is really, really important for us. Also at the same time, with creators, sometimes you may have the vision in your head, but not everyone lives in your head. So we as development execs try to figure out ways to grab all of that and try to like extract all that vision from you out onto like either a board, an animatic or like a script, and just be like, okay, here's the show, here's the vision for it. So that's really sort of what we do. And we build this foundation for the show that we ultimately then bring on folks like Joanna and folks like Pilar, and then, hopefully green light and everything works out really well. Then we hand it off to Edward to continue and build upon what we've started. So just a little bit of a taste in terms of on the development side of things. But no, yeah, like we all have, again, we all have our parts to play in trying to make the magic happen here, which is really, really great. Just quickly for everyone, from your perspective, like, what is the best part of your job? Like, what excites you? Like, what, I feel like you guys sort of touched upon it, but I want to highlight that a little bit more. Like, what is the thing that you're like, yes, this is exciting to me?
I mean, I think it's a dream for any writer to build a world and create characters and put those characters in situations that are funny and challenging. And I mean, it's pretty remarkable, the magic that you feel when you write something and then you see it and you have a team of people working together to make it the funniest it can be. But I think one of the best parts of my job is sometimes the problem solving feels exhausting. It's like, oh my God, this isn't working. We just got the thematic back and it's just not working. Like it doesn't fit what's going on. And then there's bringing it to the room of writers and working together to figure out a solution that we can do within the time limit, and maybe using some stuff we've already designed, and problem solving your way out of it creatively is something that I thought was at first was something difficult about my job, but it's also very fun because it isn't just you writing in front with your computer thinking about all these things. It's reality hitting you and problem solving with your team, which is a really, honestly, I've learned so much just doing that over and over again, and I really enjoy it.
It's awesome. Yep. Mm-hmm.
For me, it's two things. One is hands down the people. You get just such a sense of community being in animation. And because you're together for 2 to 5 years, you get to really know each other and bond. And when you travel together. And you really feel like you're part of something together special. And, it's so international too. So you get to bond with people from all over the world, which to me always felt like home. And then the other is working in animation, especially in TV, just creating something that really means something to people and that really can change their lives in a lot of ways. Especially in TV, what I loved is you're working on a show, and once it's out and you're working on a future season, it becomes like this organic, living, breathing thing where you're working on something and the fans are watching what you've done, and you're hearing what they loved or what they didn't love, and you're taking that and infusing it back into what you're doing. And there's this give and take that's really beautiful. And even just on Elena, the fact that we touch so many lives, and to hear little girls say things like, I'm a Latina, so I can do anything. It was like, to me, it just meant everything, that we could have that power, or we could do something that even schools can't teach. That's a huge responsibility, but super exciting.
I'm sorry, I just want to add, because the most exciting day of my life, I think, was meeting with Dorothea, our art director, and talking through stuff that I have in my Venezuelan house, and then seeing the design of the house of, you know, this mixed family, it's American Venezuelan, and seeing literally paintings of that my parents have and little ceramic figurines my grandma had in this world. And it was like, I cannot believe that I'm seeing my culture in this thing. It was like, it was been one of the best days of my life. Don't tell my husband that, but it's
Yeah, that's really cool.
it's very
That's
cool.
awesome. Yeah, no, for sure, for sure. Edward, you want to go?
Sure. For me, it's everything everyone is saying contributes to the magic of Disney, of it all. We are making special things that we're bringing to kids and families in their homes, and making memories that hopefully will inspire them as they go through their lives and on their paths. And that magic really comes from all the collaboration that everyone's talking about, all the hard work, all the relationships and building of community. That all goes into making great shows. So seeing that through line from beginning to a smile on a kid's face is really, really rewarding.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's probably my favorite thing as well, is the fact of like, you're creating these shows that like we're the first entry points for kids into the entertainment industry, right? Into media, into all this stuff. And so the idea that you are shaping sort of what their outlook is for the world is just like a huge responsibility. Like most people think animation and cartoons, it's just wacky and silly for the sake of being wacky and silly, but that's not the case really. For us, it's like we have to do so much thinking, because let's be real, kids are like the toughest critics of all of them. Like with adults, you can kind of be like, hey, wait, no, come back, like watch another episode, give us another opportunity, let us explain to you why it's not working. With kids, soon as you lose them, it's like there's no way to bring them back. So there's a big responsibility. So when we, you know, especially in development, when we find a project or a creator that has this unique perspective or this unique vision, and it comes from a personal place and a place of just like pure passion, and we feel it, that to me is like the most exciting thing about my job, is working with folks like that are just like excited to make this for an audience that hopefully will mold and shape them for the future. And I know that's a little bit sort of sappy and all that good stuff, but it's real. It really is real. And for us, we, you know, especially at TV animation, we take this very serious, at least on the development side of things, in terms of trying to really find those unique, diverse, authentic points of view, and tell stories that haven't been told before. That's really important to us, with characters that we haven't seen before. I mean, that is the way Disney has always done it, even on the feature side of things, right? All their, you know, the different cultures, the different types of characters that they've brought to life. It's the same thing that we're doing here in TV animation. So it's really, really exciting. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's real and you can't fake it.
Yeah.
We were all kids once and we were all fans once. So being able to do that for kids today and kids who are going to be fans of our stuff, it's tough. It's not easy.
No,
Yeah,
not at all. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's tough like on the writing end, where, you know, we want to create a show that is for kids and for adults. Like we want everyone to enjoy it. How do you do that? You know what I mean? It's a new challenge that is really, it's trying to figure out what is the burger everyone wants to eat. It's like, what are the ingredients that really make it a great story, visually interesting, and at the end of the day, a lot of it has to do with characters and who you're creating. And it's also balancing, like when is it, you know, we have this in our writers room. Our writers room is a bit edgy. We get a lot of S&P notes, but like, when is it too much and when is it just right? And there is this balance that we can hit.
Mm-hmm. For sure. Yeah. No,
And
definitely.
S&P, for those who don't know, S&P is standards and practices. So
yes,
all the parameters that we can and can't do in kids' content.
Yes.
There's quite a few things, but it makes you think about it, like smarter ways to tell these jokes, right? I feel like with kids and family animation, it's like you have to be very smart to be able to like hit it on multiple layers. I feel like, not to diss adult animation, because I love a lot of the stuff out there, but I feel like some of the things you can just go straight to the obvious choice, right? There are no
Yeah.
limitations. So
But with limitations, you got to be ninja sly, and
yeah,
it's great. It's honestly really, really, really fun.
that's great. Yeah, yeah, for sure. So yeah, moving, I think we started to talk a little bit about sort of like the idea that our shows are really sort of resonating, how do they resonate with our audience, right? How do they resonate with with kids nowadays? And I think one of the things, we have this stat that like Los Angeles is 49% Latinx. And so it's basically 1 in 5 people living in the US. And that's a really, really interesting statistic. And I wanted to throw this out to the team, and I'll sort of kick it off a little bit. The idea that we're all in high level positions, right? We all have this ability to be able to like sort of start to influence the types of stories, the types of characters that we bring in. So curious as to like, how are you guys sort of bringing that, in terms of like, not even specifically to like, the Latinos, right? But just the idea of like underrepresented groups, right? So for us in development, it's a very important thing that we're realizing that our audience and we need to mirror our audience's world, in the sense of like, it's a very diverse world nowadays. And animation for a long time was very sort of like, you had like the specific type of show and that was it. And we're transitioning to that. And we have already. Super excited about the next round of shows between like Hamster and Gretel and like, yeah, Moongirl and Devil Dinosaur. It's going to be really, really exciting. And that's just the first few. There's so many more down the line in terms of that. But we're always trying to find those unique and creative voices that can bring these characters to life and give them authenticity. So it's really important. So I'm curious as to, in your guys' sort of role, how are you guys trying to bring more and lift more underrepresented voices? Who wants to go first?
You want to go first? Well,
Pilar, go ahead, please.
Oh, okay.
I want
I
to
was
hear
like-
your answer. I'm dying to hear your answer.
But I can definitely speak to that since, I've been working so much with Latino Film Institute, Latinx and Animation, New Cinema Project, to do exactly that, because it is so important. And there's several things that I think need to happen. One is more conversations like this. This is so important because I think a lot of us don't believe we're wanted in this industry and don't believe there is room for us. And so the more they see that we're here, that they're wanted, that the studios want them, the more they pivot to thinking it is something they can do. So that's something I found. I've had to convince so many people, no, seriously, come over. They do want you here. And our community is hungry for more content about us, by us, and that can't happen unless there's more of us here telling different stories. The other really important thing I think is more outreach to students, because you have to plant that seed with that next generation so that early on they get that bug and that passion and they start working towards learning or trying to enter the industry at entry-level jobs. And so we've been doing a lot of outreach to different schools, both here and out of the country, to get them excited and let them know that you don't have to be an artist or an animator to be in animation. There's so many different types of jobs and ways to influence once you're on the show. And then the third, and I think most important, because it's something that can start now, is we need to consciously build bridges to fill the gaps in between those entry-level positions and those high-level positions, which is people that have full seats at the table and can make those decisions, because they're the ones that will bring diverse talent in because they want to, because they know it's valued, and not just to check off the box and not just to have it be tokenism. And and I'm seeing that firsthand on Moongirl and Devil Dinosaur. I'm so lucky that a lot of our leads are diverse, and because of that, it was no question. Like at the beginning, we were like, it has to be diverse. We want more women, and so now we have 54% women on the show, and we're 84% diverse. And I have never worked on a show like this where there were so many different perspectives and collaboration, and you can feel it in the show. It's just this tapestry of beautiful, authentic kind of content. And but I think if we weren't there, if we weren't at the top, like knowing who to call or going that extra mile or convincing people, no, I really believe in this person and they have potential, it wouldn't happen. And then other things we do on the show, now that we have that diverse talent is, you try to do things like mentorship. Like I'd mentioned before, I try really hard to mentor, whoever needs it or needs that extra oomph. A lot of us diverse candidates, are a bit insecure or don't feel as confident, in ourselves and what we can do. So you need that person to give you that permission or to constantly pull you up. And we've done things like 3 of our storyboard artists, we had do co-directing on a few different episodes with their directors so that they could, have someone to hold their hand through it so that you're not just throwing someone into a sink or some situation, which often ends poorly. And then everyone says, oh, that didn't work, so you can't do that. So partnering people with potential with someone who truly wants to help them, that they can trust and have faith in to get them across to the other side is so important. So and especially at Disney TV, I know we've been having a lot of conversations about that and trying to do that right thing so that we can turn things around a little faster.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, it really has to be a comprehensive approach
Mhm.
because representation matters both off screen and on screen. And most of what people are going to see is on screen, but you don't get to there without the very beginning. And by very beginning, I mean inspiring people like us to get into this industry, seeing yourself reflected in the content, knowing that you could also do it. You could work on something like that. You could see yourself there, that other people see you there. And like Pilar said, being in rooms with other people who look like you, look different than you, and all are different from each other, that brings a diversity of thought and diversity of experiences that add to the richness of the creative work that we're trying to do. I mean, for my example, as a Cuban Ecuadorian American growing up, I was a big fan of DuckTales growing up as a kid. And I got a chance to work with a story editor for the new DuckTales series, Francisco Angones, also Cuban American, also grew up as a fan of the show. And we both got to have this responsibility to bring it to a new generation. And there wasn't an overt Cuban flair to any of it, but we did get a chance to reinvent one of the characters to be a Latinx superhero character, and got to cast Lin-Manuel Miranda for it. So it's little things like that add up to something meaningful to today's audience and to the next generation.
Yeah, I think a lot of there's a misconception where this show has Latinx characters. It is a Latinx show. Everything is about their identity, and that's really not the case. The experiences of a Latinx person is the filter with which they live their everyday life. So with our superhero show that we've injected and incorporated this cultural element of a Venezuelan mother. It comes from experiences of the writers in the room. So instead of it being a conversation of identity all the time, it just is coming from experiences of the writers. It's just something that feels natural to write about, like looking for a ropa vieja all over the world after you destroyed your mom's. It's these things that just feel natural to you, but are actually really exciting and new and open up people that aren't like you to your culture. And for any writer out there that's like looking to sort of pave a way in this, like when I'm reading a lot of pilots for writers, I like to see how they incorporate their point of view and perspective in whatever pilot they write. Like I want to get to know the writer through what they write, and that incorporates who you are and your identity. So, that's a tip I give to any writer seeking to break into the industry is write yourself into what you do. Doesn't have to be literal. You don't have to put like Joanna says, but like write from your heart and your experiences and your identity as a filter.
I think that's really important. Yes, because we even talk about that with like writers and then also artists as well. Like if you're an artist, yes, you can copy the style of like Pixar feature, Disney feature animation or TVA animation, right? And you can be like, hey, this is like I can do exactly what you guys do. Hire me. And it's like that's not always the case. Like we want to see like what you bring to the table. Right? Like, what is your unique perspective on these characters or just like in general of the world? So, yeah, just sort of feeling that in terms of on the side of the artist, but definitely on the writers. Yes. Like write what put yourself into it. And yeah, like that's really all you can do at this point. You'd rather, I always tell people, it's like, it's easier to defend your work if it comes from, a personal place, if it comes from you. But if you're doing something just for the sake of doing it, how do you back that up, right? You really can't. So, something to keep in mind, for sure. But yeah, no, I love all the different things that you guys are talking about in terms of just like elevating underrepresented voices. Like that is a very big thing for all of us here and all of us, at Disney Television Animation. Really trying to find ways to not necessarily just bring somebody and be like, hey, here you go, you have a show now. It's like, no, let us support you. Let us make sure that you have the proper training, that you have all the things that you need. And that's one advice. And actually, I was gonna sort of like end this on like, hey, words of advice and encouragement in terms of like, folks starting out in this industry or folks that have been in this industry and things like that. But Joanna's already kicked us off, which is fantastic, because I do want to tell people, like, everyone's goal should be, it's totally fine if your goal is to be a show creator. Like, yes, 100% you should be that. But you also should understand that you're not going to get that right off the bat sometimes. Not everyone's going to get that opportunity. So get into a show, learn about how a show works, because you'll realize that it's not just about being creative. It's also about being able to manage people. That's another big aspect of running a show, is like, it's half creative and it's half also being able to delegate and manage people and all that stuff. So it's really important. I tell everybody, like, yeah, you can have the creative down 100%, but if you have show experience, if you've been on shows, or you even as a PA and seeing how things work, that's one piece of advice that I tell people. It's just like, just get your foot in the door. Doesn't mean that just because you are starting on the production side, you can't switch over to the creative, and vice versa. If you're creative and then you're realizing, oh, I really like sort of managing people more than anything, then that's totally fine too. So that would be my sort of big piece of advice. I open it up to the rest of the folks on this panel.
Yeah, I'll jump on that. Really echoing that, my advice to anybody would be, you're not going to do it alone. We keep saying animation is collaborative, and that's true in every sense of it. A lot of people misinterpret follow your passion as follow your own individual passion, and then it's all about you. But we're all working towards a shared passion and towards a shared goal, for a broad audience of people who hopefully will one day be like us. And your path is not just about your own personal passions. It's about who you partner with, who you can grow with, who you can learn from, who you can be mentored by, who you can mentor. So in addition to working together, not just to lift up our own voices, but to lift up other voices as well. And the only way to do that is to do it together.
Really well said. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I want an inspirational poster with that on it, so that I look at it when I'm feeling down and I remember why.
Yes,
yeah. For sure. I mean, in terms
cool with everyone.
Yes, I listen, at the end of the day, like Pilar said, you really are going to be with some, with your crew and with folks for like 3 to 5 years. Like, it takes a while to make an animated show. And so you want to make sure that you just have a positive energy and you're working with people that you're excited to work with,
It's pretty remarkable how, and I want to say this to everyone I meet who's like, I want to break into the industry, but how being kind and being easy to work with is beyond the most important element, because with experience, you'll get better. And with experience, you'll become more creative. But being kind, and this is like, I know it sounds cheesy, but I swear to God, that's why my friends and people I've known and myself have booked things after many years of being rejected or failing and not getting to that point, not getting to this. It's, you keep going, and people will want to work with you if you are easy and to work with, and you are a problem solver and you're kind. So, that's easy. That's an easy thing to do that really helps.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so important.
Yeah.
So yes, everything everyone said, and I would just repeat what I said earlier, which is, now is the time. If you've ever considered going into the animation industry, there is a plethora of avenues and jobs right now. When I first started, there were 2 feature studios and just a couple of, TV studios. So it was really hard to get in, but now things were exploding. So just start with figuring out what your top skills are and what your passions are. And then, just go for that and keep knocking on doors. And like Joanna said, you get rejected, but it doesn't matter. You just need that one yes. And then most importantly, once you get in there, once you've got your foot in the door, what I think is really important is to know what you don't know rather than what you do know, because that's how you'll get ahead. And I wish someone had told me that early on, but I realized I kind of organically did that because I was so hungry and eager to kind of climb the ladder and be in the industry. But when I was at DreamWorks, when things started shifting from 2D to CG and people were terrified and everybody wanted to stay on the 2D shows, I was the one to go, you know what, I want to learn that new thing. And I would ask artists, like, what do you do? And what's a node? And what's a NURB spline? And and I would literally just sit behind the animators and watch them work so that I could kind of understand what they knew. And same with Sausage Party. It was like, this is the first ever, we've never done this via Zoom. And I was like, all right, let's try that. Or even at Disney TV, when I first started on Elena, I'd never done TV before. I relied so much on everybody around me to teach me, to train me. And just asking questions and not being afraid of what you don't know. And that's how you'll get ahead, because everyone's just got their particular skills and you can't grow unless you just openly say, help me, in these areas. So never be afraid of that. And it's amazing how quickly you'll grow if you can do that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. I'd love to just get into specifics really quickly in terms of just more in how they can break into the industry. So Edward and Joanna, on the writer's side of things, I know you guys handle a lot of the, more of the writing side. Is there anything in particular that you would say? I know Joanna, you already started to talk about, and I haven't elaborated on the really write what you know, but is there anything in terms of samples, things like that you look for, or things that people can just sort of do to just be noticed or rise above the rest? I know there's not a secret sort of song, a secret recipe to this, right? But anything that we can sort of, any advice would be greatly appreciated.
Yeah. Well, on the writing end, I think a lot of it is have a really strong pilot that is just your business card, your calling card, that tells anyone who's reading it within the first, and you don't even have 30 pages. You got 2 pages to hook us in, to tell us what your style is, who you are, and what you're good at. Are you really strong into comedy? Are you really strong into storytelling? What are you going to add to the writer's room? Because writer's rooms, you have people that are strong in many things. You don't need to do it all, because there's going to be someone else in the room that can do what you can't. So tell us what you can do in the first 2 pages. If you have a show, an animated show that you love right now, that you're passionate about, write a sample script for that show. We hired a writer on Hamster and Gretel based on her Rick and Morty script, because it was just so funny and great, and we loved her pilot. But the Rick and Morty was just what hooked us. Oh, she can take a world and write to it. Another thing is the internet. I can't tell you how many times Twitter has given people opportunities. My friends who are head writers and showrunners, they start following someone because of their tweets or because of what they post or because of their images or because of this. And then they ask them to apply to jobs. And so, work on who you are. What is your brand? What do you bring? And don't be afraid to show it and publish it and put yourself out there, so that when people Google you, they know who you are and they can see your work after they read your pilot that one time. And then another thing I'll say is I was rejected 84 times from 84 shows before booking my first television show. So it happens to the best writers. It happens to people like me who are fine writers. It happens to all of the writers. You literally just have to keep going, because at one point you will break in if you don't stop.
And adding to that, as you keep going, you're building your network. You're meeting people, you're practicing, and in being your own and developing your own brand and being your own best advocate, you're also working towards inspiring other people to be advocates on your behalf. And through all of those rejections, you're also building something. You're building your network, so that when you get to that point of achieving a job or selling your script or getting that next step, you'll have already that built-in network of support. that will help you and also get you your next job. And then you keep building from there.
I'm sorry, I have one more thing because that inspired me so much. It's like there's no one way to do it. And sometimes it's literally having someone write to you on Twitter, like Dan Povenmire, and then you go have coffee and then you write on his show 6 years later. Like there's no right way of doing this, but it's people that give you the opportunity. Okay, sorry. That's my inspirational poster.
No, those were both fantastic, sort of, yeah, just like really really great advice. Yes, I highly recommend everyone to take this like to heart. That really is the way to do it, to be honest. I'd love to give Pilar a chance to sort of speak to, I know you deal with writers as well, but like if you could speak to a little bit on the production side or the artist side of things, just in terms of like what can they do to also rise above the rest and really be noticed, that would be fantastic.
Yeah. Well, first, I totally agree that persistence is number one. And for me, when I came to the States, I didn't have a green card. I had a 1-year student work visa, and I had a year till I get experience or go home, basically. And it took me 6 months. And I got to see all my college peers who they need a green card because they were American, just get jobs, super easily. But I had to keep trying and trying and trying and, going at it from every angle until finally I landed something. So you can't give up. If you want to do it, you will, just keep knocking on all those doors. And for production as well as artists, kind of similar, Instagram and Twitter is your friend. I can't tell you how many artists we've hired from Instagram or Twitter from either the posts of who they were or them posting their artwork and us realizing, oh my God, this person has huge potential and is hugely amazing. For production, obviously you can't do that. But what I would say is if you want to go into production or even, an executive role, is your resume is really important. And also networking is really important. There are now so many different opportunities and organizations that do mixers and events where you can meet people. So of course, LatinX in animation, Black in animated, women in animation, and you don't have to be of that ethnicity to go. You can go to everything and anything and meet people there. And that's how I personally have hired so many people. But if you are turning in a resume, my top recommendation is customize it to the role that you're putting it in for. Don't just write one resume and send it in to everybody. Make sure that you know what the job is. Try to find out everything you can about the show, who's on it, that you can. And then make sure that you start it off with a top line or a bio that is really eye-catching, that tells everybody who you are and why you want to be there. Because like Joanna said, even though you have a whole resume, people aren't going to read the whole thing. I mean, I'll be honest, I read like that top bio and maybe the first couple of things, but you get so many resumes that the ones that really stick with you are the ones that kind of make it to that next stage, especially for the recruiters looking at it. So make sure there's something on there that stands out or makes you sound interesting. Or if you have no experience, put on there the volunteer things you've done or what other projects you've done or your skills. And yeah, just keep meeting people. And between that and having a strong resume, you'll find your way in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I'll speak to a little bit on the development side of things, if anyone's curious about in terms of getting into development or even pitching your idea to development. I'll start off with my advice to people that want to pitch their ideas is first and foremost, reach out and make a connection. Do not pitch your idea in that first email, because most likely we are going to be like, who is this person and why are they sending us their idea if we haven't even got to know you? For us, it's really important to get to know the people that we will potentially be working with. Again, it's who you know, right? And it's like, if you have a good vibe about you and you seem like a good person to collaborate with, like that even gives you more of an opportunity where like maybe your idea that you pitched us right off the bat is not the right one, but we may want to work with you on other things. So it's always about making that connection first and foremost. So I always tell people, if you, the best way to get rejected right off, like it's just to send your idea in that email. You're just going to get rejected. No one's going to respond to you. It's going to be a very, very tough way to get in. Even if you have like the next, big hit, it's a tough thing. And then in terms of more on the development side, if folks are curious about like development and all that, one of the things that I tell people is like read and watch as many things as you can in terms of scripts, shows, you know, and really just like immerse yourself in the sort of medium that you want to be in. Is it animation? Is it live action? Really just get to know what's working and what is and what isn't, because that's one of the big things in development, is that you need to be able to create your voice. Like, you need to find your voice, you need to find your vision, because you as a development exec are going to be guiding other creatives to really, you know, find their voice and find their vision for their pitches. So and that always starts off with, basically you will start off as like an assistant and you will work your way up that way, and that's the general route. I mean, again, like we all said, there's no one way, you know, no one sort of like ladder really in terms of climbing up the ranks, but that is sort of the general way of like, find those job postings of assistants, even internships. If you're, you know, still in school, or you're just graduating, like those are great ways. And I've promoted and hired many interns to be assistant. I've found assistants based on just like their coverage, their notes, different things like that. So I just recommend everyone to just like read as much as you can and really start to like figure out and find your voice. That's really important. So yeah.
And can I just jump in with two
Oh
words
yeah,
of advice
yeah.
on an interview? Because this is something everyone should know. Two things when you go in for an interview. One is, like Alfredo said, do your research, because I cannot tell you how many people I've interviewed and I've asked them on a show that's already out, so are you a fan of the show? Have you seen the show? And they're like, no. I mean, first person to get cut out. Just, you have YouTube, you can literally look it up, you know, and research a little bit of it. And also, when you get to that interview, don't wait for the person to ask you all the questions. Come prepared with all the things you want to tell that person about yourself. Come prepared to say, this is why you need me, this is why I want to be here, these are my skills, because not everyone's a great interviewer, you know? And so sometimes you'll get into an interview and they're thinking about the previous meeting and after meeting, and they're just kind of meeting you, and they're not really, and afterwards they'll say, oh, that person wasn't as skilled as I thought they'd be. And it's because they didn't ask the right questions. So do not leave it to that person to allow you to shine. You come in there prepared with your bullets and find a way to weave that in and express who you are. You've only got usually half an hour to do it. So.
Yeah.
And questions about what they want in the show, like questions about the show, questions about what they need, questions about what's the best person for this job, like what are the skills that they think, like, and that way you parlay it into just you talking about how you deserve the job.
That's right.
Yep.
And how you can fill that for them.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Oh, funny. You need a Jewish Venezuelan. Oh, funny you say that. Look at this. I'm one.
It's like, perfect. Do I have the person for you? It's standing right in front of you. Yes. Exactly.
That's when you want to leave the interview with them feeling.
Exactly. Yeah, no, for sure. So listen, like all of us have said, it's a collaborative medium. It's a medium that is looking for those diverse voices, those diverse candidates to really, you know, help us find you, help us sort of like really bring you into the family. That's something that, again, this advice is really for you guys to sort of really rise above the rest, and for us to be able to find you and be able to bring you in. I mean, we're out there trying to find folks all the time. So whatever you can do to really stand out, that's a really important thing. So hopefully all this advice has been super helpful, and you know, just hearing our stories will hopefully motivate everyone watching this. But yeah, any last words from anybody before we wrap this up?
Check out the apprenticeship program at Disney. People that, you know, perhaps haven't worked in television before, haven't been able to get their foot in the door, but need their foot in the door. The apprenticeship program is really wonderful. We were able to bring in a wonderful writer onto our team that is just, I mean, just so much talent that he is set on a path for staff writing. So look at some of those resources.
Yeah, for sure.
And internship programs. We now have a artist internship program as well as production. So whatever avenue you want to go, you can kind of get your foot in the door that way.
Yeah, Disney's a big company, lots of entry points. So yeah, we encourage everybody to look into the job site, look into the studio sites for those opportunities, whether it's internship, apprenticeship, whether it's an entry-level production job. You know, getting your foot in the door oftentimes is more valuable than getting that exact thing that you want to get.
Yeah, for sure. Well, thank you very much to our panelists, Joanna, Pilar, Edward. It was such a blast talking to you guys about your journeys, your stories, animation, how to get into it, all that fun stuff. So thank you again for your time. And thank you to LaLeaf and LatinX in Animation for having us today. We hope you guys enjoyed our panel.
Thank you,
Gracias, Alfredo.
Thanks, Alfredo.
Yay, eso.
It was so nice hanging out with you guys. I want to do it all the time now.
I know.